Hey, what is up YouTube? My name is Martin and welcome to the first of a three-part video series where we will be talking about the life of Harald Fairhair. We'll start by talking about Harald's father Halfdan, Harald's youth, his father's death, and the way towards uniting the whole of Norway into one kingdom. So make yourself a cup of coffee, tea or anything else, sit down, relax and follow along as I will be talking about the interesting life of Norway's first king. The story of Harald starts in the year 818, when his father Halfdan the Black was born. Halfdan grew up with his mother in Agder, who ruled the kingdom of her father after he was killed. It was tradition that the son of a king grew up with his mother in the place where she was from. This is the reason for Halfdan not growing up in Oppland, where his father Gudrun Veidekonge was king. Oppland was an old collective name for Romerike, Ringerike, Hadeland, Land, Toten, Hallingsdalen, Valdres and Gudbrandsdalen, all of which still exist today with the exception of Land. Well, the land still exists, but it's no longer called Land. We know very little about Halfdan's life, but we do know that he was interested in creating a kingdom for himself, which his son eventually did later on. In Sogn, the petty king Harald Goldbeard ruled, and he had a daughter with the name Ragnhild. Halfdan married Ragnhild, and not long after a son was born, whom they named Harald. I have to stress that the name Fairhair, or Hårfagre as we say in Norwegian, was not given to him at his birth. That was given in a later occasion that I will be talking about later. So when Harald was born, if someone were to name him with both first and last name, his name was Harald Halfdanson. Because of the tradition I talked about in the beginning of the video, Harald grew up in Sogn with his grandfather and mother. We don't know a lot about the relationship between father and son, but I believe myself that they did not meet often. Halfdan had a kingdom to look after, and journeys to Sogn took time that could be used for other more important things. We still think Harald had a good childhood in Sogn with a loving mother and a grandfather who wanted him to become a good king. It is, however, from the year 858 most Norwegians learn about the story of Harald. Halfdan the Black, whom was called that because of his black hair, drowned in Randsfjorden after underestimating the ice. He was on his way to a feast in Hadeland and had over 20 men following him there. Everyone drowned, and the news of the king's death shocked not only the kingdom Halfdan ruled in, but Sogn and presumably other petty kingdoms as well. When the news reached Sogn, Harald was led to Stein, Halfdan the Black's king's farm, by warriors sent by Halfdan's brother. His brother was called Guttorm and would work as Harald's guardian and regent over the kingdom until Harald could legally rule the kingdom himself when he turned 15. Many of us have heard the stories about Halfdan being cut to pieces and buried several places. This was most likely because he was a well-liked king. Still, there is little possibility that this actually happened. It would be unworthy for a king to be cut to pieces, and he was most likely buried in one place. Still, it's something to think about. It happened an extremely long time ago, so we cannot know for sure. During Guttorm's regency, there were several revolts around the kingdom. Halfdan had inherited a petty kingdom from his father, but he had fought and made his kingdom bigger. In these battles he killed the kings but spared their sons. Now that Halfdan was dead, many of their sons saw their chance to revolt against the crown and get their independence back. One of the exceptions was the king Gandalf. He was allowed to live after agreeing with Halfdan to stop fighting. Now that Halfdan was dead, he sent his son Hake to fight for independence. Hake had over 360 men, which was a great force back then. Harald had something they didn't have though, berserkers. These men, united in their beliefs in Odin, were great fighters. Harald did not only have berserkers, Guttorm had great spies, and one night Guttorm brought both warriors and berserkers and slayed all of Hake's men as well as Hake, without any of them expecting it. There were other revolts as well, but none of such interest as this one. Around 2 years later, in 860, the kingdom was secured and Harald was safe, at least for a while. After that, the sagas go pretty quiet. This is where we learn about Harald's love for the Virgin Gyda. There is also where he promises that he will let his hair grow until he has managed to gather the whole of Norway into one kingdom. The first part is probably not true, but we cannot exclude it completely. What we are pretty sure about though is that he, in the 2-3 years of peace, he got the idea from Guttorm to gather Norway into one kingdom like the vision his father had. In the year 863, Harald takes over the power of his father's petty kingdom completely, but it is most probable that he still received support from Guttorm and other trusted men. This is when it is decided that they will expand Upplandet, expand Harald's kingdom. This is when the fight to gather Norway to one great kingdom begins, and this is when the most interesting part of this story begins. There are several things that influenced these things, one of them being the great heathen army towards England and tightening the grip Denmark had around Norway. This would make it easier for Harald to unite Norway because parts of Norway was ruled by the Danish king. We'll have to wait till next week to talk about the unification of Norway, so thank you for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Martin Sherman, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.